Hey everybody, welcome back to Barter Hordes. My name is Robert. Happy 4th of July week if you're here in the United States. Happy hot summer if you're anywhere else, or if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, I guess you're in the middle of winter. 2 weeks ago when I did my last video, I invited you all to ask me anything as a way of getting me to post a little bit of content here and there while I'm developing some new projects. I have 2 new projects planned. On one of them, I'm waiting for something to arrive in the mail, and once it arrives in the mail, I'll be ready to announce it. So hopefully not too terribly long. But I did get a number of people asking me questions on that last video, and I invite you all to continue to ask questions. Post them in the comments on this video if you want, and I will come back periodically and do another one of these as people ask other questions. I'm just going to do 3 today. I'm not going to try to go through all of the comments, but I just picked 3 that were interesting, and then we'll go from there. The first one is from Dave over at The Poptimist. And David asks, have I always been a cyclist or am I new to it? Because I've been posting on Instagram a lot of my progress on some cycling challenges. And he also asks that when I was a teacher, what has been the most out there interpretation of a text that a student tried to pass off? And that one's pretty easy to answer. First, the cycling. I am not new to cycling. I was a runner back in college, and then 30 some odd years ago when I discovered I was a diabetic, I had to stop running because of the nerve damage in my feet. I just simply couldn't feel my feet anymore. It was like running with 2 blocks of concrete on my feet. No feel for the ground, no balance. It was just miserable. And somebody suggested I turn to cycling, but I just wasn't interested. So for a long time, I wasn't doing much of anything exercise-wise. I kept up my martial arts practices for a while until I blew out a knee doing that. I have no ACL in my right knee. Another reason why I can't run or play ball sports, things like that. I can't really move side to side quickly or my knee will just give out. But when I had my bookstore, back in the early 2000s, I think it was connected to a coffee shop. We had a door that passed between the coffee shop and the bookstore that customers could go back and forth. And the couple that owned it at the time, the guy, Mike, was a former Special Forces guy out at Fort Bragg and was a contractor teaching the Special Forces. So he was still in incredible shape. And his wife, Rachel, who was really the one I worked with the most, she worked during the days. Michael was the roaster, and she was the one who ran the shop. Rachel was one of these eco-challenge adventure athletes who was in phenomenal shape, so much so that when she was trying to get into the FBI, which she did do, she actually passed the male physical fitness test and made some of the other applicants cry during the test. She was so strong. Rachel was mad at me because she knew I was a diabetic and knew I wasn't getting any exercise being in my store 6 days a week, 12 hours a day. And so she said, Michael is coming to your house tomorrow. It was my day off. And you 2 are going to go for a bike ride. I hadn't been on a bike since high school. Literally, I had not been on a bike since high school. And so Mike showed up. I had kind of this clunky mountain bike, very heavy bike, and we were going to ride from my house to our shops, which was about 11 miles away. Not ambitious or anything for somebody who hadn't been on a bike in 30 years. And we got about 2 miles down the road, had gone down a big hill, and realized that we were going to have to go back up that next hill. And I made it about a third of the way up that next hill before I had to stop and hurl all over the side of the road. And of course, Mike's just laughing at this. He thinks this is hysterical. And I said, I'm done. I'm walking home. And so I literally walked my bike home 2 miles. Mike had to continue the ride to go get his car, which we had left at the shops. And he said before he left, while he was still laughing, he said, I'll be back. We're going to do this again. And he did. We started riding fairly regularly. And within 3 months, I had done my first 50-mile bike ride. And then about a year later, I went on my first bike tour. I think this was in 2007. So it must have been 2005 or 6 when Mike and I started riding. 2007, I did a bike tour, a solo bike tour of the Natchez Trace Parkway from Nashville, Tennessee down to Natchez, Mississippi, I think it's 465 miles. And I did that over 9 days in the heat of the summer, which was not smart, but it was the only time I had. And I loved it, absolutely loved it. And so I was a bike rider for a long time. I got out of the habit when I lived in Florida, because one thing down there is drivers are crazy. And even though there's some great roads that are rideable down there, the traffic's not reliable. It's just dangerous. And I was so busy coaching the debate team that I didn't ride much. And then during the lockdown, I bought a stationary bike, a trainer, video trainer here at home, and didn't use it for a full year because I was having such horrendous back problems. And then my back problems started to clear up a little bit, and January 1st of this year, I got on that trainer for the first time, and I've been riding like a maniac ever since, trying to get back to the shape I was in before. So I'm not new to cycling, but I'm new to getting back to cycling, and it's the first time I've ever done indoors training. And so I'm doing a couple of these virtual bike challenges. There are a series of them that I'm doing that are 600 or 700 miles a piece at different points in the country. And then I'm currently doing a really long one. I'm doing the Route 66 challenge from Chicago to Los Angeles. And I just yesterday crossed the 80% mark on that one. So I'm within the last 450 miles or so. So I'll be finishing that one up fairly soon. So not new to it, but kind of a renewed interest in it this last year during the lockdown. Hey all, this is Editing Robert. I just realized I completely forgot the second half of Dave's question about the most out there interpretation of literature I ever got from a student. Years ago, one of my debate students, of course, somebody I knew pretty well, otherwise I don't think he would have tried this, was reading Jan Martel's Life of Pi, and he wrote an argument claiming that the book is about bestiality. And of course, he had voluminous quotations from the novel, all taken completely out of context, of course, as a way of supporting it. And he looked at me when he handed it in, and I knew something was up, and I read it that night. And I immediately called him and just laughed. I said, "You're the only person I know who would actually even try that, knowing what my response is going to be." So Ian, there's no chance you're watching this video, but if you're out there, I still remember that paper. The second question comes from Sandra Reese, and she says, "Are you enjoying administering the Booktube Prize? What has been great joy? What has been a headache?" And I am, of course. I wouldn't do it if I didn't love it. I organized and ran and administered debate tournaments for most of my 10-year career as a debate coach, and I just loved organizing those kinds of competitions. And so I saw the need for one on Booktube to allow real people to be judges instead of the celebrities or, the TV personalities who are starting to become judges on a lot of the other book prizes. And so I started this one using a speech and debate format, and I've really enjoyed it. The thing that has been the greatest joy is that it's been accepted by so many people around the world. We have 241 judges, I think, this year from 32 or 33 different countries, which I just find remarkable. And I think it's going to continue to grow as we add the next division. We'll add another division next year. I don't see us getting any bigger than 3 divisions because just the sheer number of judges you'd have to run each new division. But if we can pull off adding a 3rd division and getting enough judges within the first 4 years that we've done this prize, I will be amazed and thoroughly pleased. The thing that's the biggest headache, and this is typical for any big organization, is people who don't read or respond to emails, or don't read them all the way through and then screw something up that you've already explained to them. That can be a little frustrating when you're down facing a deadline. When it was just 30 or 40 people taking part, it was really easy to keep track of, but now it's almost 250 people in the judge pool. It's much more difficult to track everybody down who hasn't met a deadline or has just disappeared off the face of the earth. In the last round, we had 2 judges who just simply disappeared. never turned in rankings, never contacted me, never responded to my attempts to contact them, and we just had to go with replacement judges at the last second, which is not always easy to do. So that's the only real headache, is just when people don't follow through in their commitments. I, they're volunteers, so I can't really say anything. I'm thrilled to have as many people as we have, but that can be a headache when I'm starting pulling my hair out the night before a deadline and I still can't find 5 or 6 people that have just disappeared off the face of the earth. I hope they're all right. Some of them I still see posting online, so that kind of irritates me that they'll post online, but they won't respond to an email, but that's beside the point. And the other question I wanted to ask or answer today, and I'm not sure how this name is pronounced, so please forgive me. It's Morel Lambre. I don't know if I'm even close on that. But she says, is there a book that changed your life and why? And would it be so impacting if I read it now? There are actually 2 books that I think changed my life in different ways. The first one happened back in college. I was a reader as a kid, as most of us were. I got out of it when I got so involved in music in middle school and high school. I became a reader just of whatever I had to read for school. I wasn't a reader for fun because there just wasn't any time. And then I went to college as a music major and then left music, which is still to this day my biggest regret, leaving music, because I didn't see a career path for myself with the instrument that I play, the euphonium, if you want to look that up. There were not really any career paths other than the military bands, which was an option for me, but not one that I found particularly appealing. And so I left and got a marketing degree, which I hated from day one, and decided to stay in school after reading, of all things, Moby Dick. I got the Easton Press leather-bound editions. I thought they were gorgeous when I saw the advertisement, so I thought, I'll try one. And the first one they sent at that time, was Moby Dick. Beautiful edition of it. And I fell in love with reading all over again and ended up getting a second bachelor's degree and then a master's degree and then did PhD work in English, probably because of that book. I don't think it's a favorite novel of mine, but the process of reading that at that time of my life changed the direction of my studies. The other one is very recent. When I was teaching at Durham Academy, one of the days we did a teacher in-service day. They had us do the full 2-hour Myers-Briggs test, which a lot of people discredit now, other people swear by. I don't know whether it's accurate or not. I went into it with a really bad attitude, thinking this is all a bunch of hooey. It's like astrology. It's not, apparently, because after lunch, when we got back and they printed out all of our results, we started talking about how it could affect our teaching, but I was just gobsmacked by how accurately it depicted things about me that I had not even pinpointed, but I recognized as true. And as a result of that test, I'm an INTJ. I had never thought of myself as an introvert before because I was a teacher, I was in front of people every day speaking in public, I was a musician performing in public, but the things that it talks about being an introvert aren't that you can't be in public, it's just the way you recover from those things are different from the way extroverts go about things. And I read Susan Cain's book, Quiet. I forget the subtitle, but it's something about being an introvert in an extroverted world. And that book literally changed my life because it identified for me why I felt the way I did about certain things. For instance, why I refuse to talk on the phone anymore. If you want me, email me or text me, and if I really need to talk to you on the phone, I will call you back. But I hate to answer the phone, even if it's somebody that I wouldn't mind talking to in person. Something that about it just drives me crazy. About how my idea of hell is happy talk in a large crowd of strangers. Even though I've had to do that on many, many occasions after a book reading or a book signing on my book tours, after concerts, after lectures, or after speeches I've given where you have to speak to everybody who comes up to talk to you. Those kinds of things wear me out and drain me. Everybody else wants to go out and have a nice meal or a party after that. I want to go back to the hotel and sleep by myself, quietly. So that book changed my life because it made me understand things about myself that I had kind of felt but had no way of articulating or why they were that way. So that book kind of did change my life in a lot of ways. Anyway, 3 questions that I found interesting. There were several others that I found interesting too, but in the sake of keeping this video fairly short, I thought I'd limit it to 3. If you have additional questions for me, please drop them in the comments, and I'll do another version of this at some time in the near future while I'm working on my new projects. I'll talk to you all soon. Bye, everybody.